I'm dog sitting. That's why that little guy's here. His name is Cricket. He's a friend's doggy, and they're out of town, so I'm keeping him for the week. So far, he's precious. Super easy little guy, but he chases my chickens. So I need to keep him on a leash at all times, except right now, because right now the chickens are in the back getting ready to go to bed, so he's not going to see them. And he's pretty obedient. You guys saw my sage is huge. I have some basil growing. My potatoes are going strong, and so are my cucumbers. They're just starting to climb. Green beans are doing all right. Tomatoes are getting big. Some fruit is starting. We've got plenty of okra that looks like it's gonna be successful. More tomatoes and some marigolds in this corner. They came back from last year. And then I just trimmed back a bunch of dill. I'm gonna save some of the blooms for salads, and I got a bunch of the fresh dill to dry and also use for some tzatziki dressing and of course tuna, fish, and things like that. I pulled out all the lettuce today, and in here there's parsley, thyme, rosemary, and strawberries that'll come back hopefully and multiply next year. And lastly, some peppers. I got jalapenos, green peppers, red peppers, and these long ones that I don't know what they're called. They're not banana peppers, they're dark green long ones. Looking good. Oh, and lots of blackberries and raspberries and muscadines and blueberries. And our fig trees are surviving. So here's one fig tree and the other. So Lord willing, they'll grow and fruit within the next 2 years. It was another 100 and something degree day, so I'm gonna turn the sprinklers on for the garden, let him water for 20 minutes or so, and go finish watering my porch plants. We also have several gladiolus coming up. The lilies are done, but they were beautiful while they lasted. For our first meal, I used some leftover salmon from last night's dinner and the last of our romaine lettuce from our garden. I also put tomatoes from the farmer's market, some organic red onions, Kalamata olives, half an avocado, and some feta cheese drizzled with some olive oil. I love salads in the hot months of the year. We've been doing a lot of work on the property these last few days, and so I wanted to make something special and fun for the boys. They requested a strawberry crisp with vanilla ice cream, so I'm milling some soft wheat to make my crisp topping. I love using my KitchenAid with the whisk attachment to cut the butter into the flour and oats and cinnamon, and then I just drizzle some honey over some frozen organic strawberries and make just simple plain vanilla ice cream, 2 cups of heavy whipping cream, 1 cup of milk, 3/4 cup of sugar, and 2 tablespoons of homemade vanilla extract. I like to make it earlier in the day so that it has plenty of time to get nice and hard in the freezer. You can serve it on the spot, it'll just be a lot softer. This next meal is so delicious and so easy, and definitely has become a go-to recipe for me. All I do is pressure cook a roast on the beef setting in my Instant Pot with some water. I don't add any seasonings. Once it's done, I drain and keep most of the broth, but I leave a little in there, and I add some organic salsa. I then set it to the saute setting and let it cook for a little bit. Once it's heated through and just well mixed with the salsa, I just leave it at the warm setting until the rest of the ingredients are ready to assemble the tacos for our dinner. All I top this with is some raw white onion and cilantro, and the main work I do is make the tortillas. So I'm using some lard from a pig that my boys helped slaughter last fall, and I'm milling some soft wheat to get my tortillas ready. I like to get them ready a little while ahead of time so that they have time to rest. They're a lot easier to work with if they've had time to sit and rest for a little while. So once my tortillas dough is ready, I divide them into 10 and just let them rest for 20 to 30 minutes. I've got my shredded, raw, organic, aged cheddar and my cast iron skillets nice and hot. I like to use saran wrap so that it's a lot less mess and the tortillas are less likely to tear or stick to the rolling pin. Once they're cooked in the skillet, I'll put some cheese to melt on the tortillas and then just top them with the beef and the onion and cilantro, and this meal is a hit. It is delicious. We load the tacos with a lot of meat, so they're very filling, and I highly recommend. I would love to hear what you think. They think that they taste very much like birria tacos, even though we're not dipping them in broth. The meat is so saucy and juicy that it feels like you are. Last week I made roast chicken for dinner, and I had some chicken left over, which I used for chicken salad the next day for lunch and served it over some mixed greens alongside some delicious sourdough toast. I love chicken salad. Sometimes I do the same recipe but with tuna, and it is wonderful. You can barely tell the difference. So, of course, there's so many different kinds of chicken salad recipes. I've done many. Today, I chose raw onion, celery, a little salt and pepper, a little honey, and craisins and sliced almonds, and mayonnaise, of course. It was so delicious and satisfying. I served it again over some mixed greens and some buttered toast. This is yet again another go-to dinner that we all love. I've got some mayonnaise, curry powder, and mustard mixed together to make this delicious curry mustard sauce, which we will be serving over some turmeric rice that I cooked in bone broth, and this delicious chicken that I put in the Instant Pot and then just deboned and sauteed with onions, green peppers, red peppers, fresh garlic, and butter, and it is so yummy. You've got to taste it. Tomorrow I am going to another lovely garden party, and I have been asked to bring a side dish. So I am making Ina Garten's world-renowned potato salad. I've never made it before, but I figured it's Ina Garten. I've got all the ingredients. I'm gonna go for it. So I am changing one thing in her recipe. I'm doing red potatoes instead of white potatoes, and I'm cutting them differently than your typical potato salad because I have a memory of seeing potato salad that looked like this at this restaurant back in the day called Boston Market, and I just thought it was so beautiful. So I wanted the beautiful fresh dill and the long wedge red skinned potatoes in the salad. It was delicious. this time at the garden party. All of the food was delicious, but man, this rosemary infused olive oil stood out to me so much that I'm making some tonight. I'm so excited. I've got beautiful rosemary growing in my garden, so I want to infuse some olive oil, add a little salt, add a little pepper, and then maybe tomorrow with some fresh sourdough bread, we can have a delicious snack. I'm also going to get some whole grains milled and fermenting overnight for some delicious pancakes for breakfast tomorrow morning. And I'm going to pick some blackberries to make some blackberry syrup to accompany those pancakes. This is another dish, pancakes, that I change up the grains for all the time. Sometimes I make plain soft white wheat. Sometimes I do a blend like this. I'm doing lentils, white beans, and millet today. Sometimes I do red beans in there, brown rice, barley, oats. It really is just whatever's easy. Oh, and flaxseed, that's delicious too. So kept it simple today. I usually do half a cup of soft white wheat and then a quarter cup of everything else. And then I just treat it like normal flour and mix in some eggs, milk, butter, vanilla, salt, honey, baking soda, baking powder. I'm not going to turn the camera off and on. I'm just gonna throw in all the ingredients while you guys watch. So here I'm adding 3 eggs to that freshly milled flour and beans and millet. I always save my eggshells. I'm putting them in the oven so that I can roast them for the dogs and the chickens. When it's for the chickens, I just crush them up with my hands and throw them to the yard and they eat them. When it's for the dogs, I make them into powder in an old coffee blade grinder and put them in a jar and put it over their food. So back to the pancakes. I'm adding some honey. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt, a little bit of baking powder, baking soda, and some vanilla extract. I will also add some milk, and then I'll melt a quarter cup of butter and add that at the end. Then I'll mix it up, cover it up, and let it ferment overnight. The blackberry syrup is fairly simple. I just put it in a pot with some honey and water, let the berries get very soft and mushy, and then strained them to get all those seeds separated from the delicious syrup. I'm bottling the syrup and letting it cool overnight so that it will be ready for our pancakes in the morning.